and this is Travel Tuesday. I thought I'd tell you about the first solo trip I did, just to start from the beginning. When I was 15, I was really into English. I'm from Sweden originally, and my family has always traveled a lot. So I realized kind of that knowing other languages is really important. Um, and in order to sort of pursue my goals and interests, I wanted to go on a trip to England, a language course. So, on the summer after middle school, that's when you're 15, 16 in Sweden, I went to Eastbourne with the company STS. This is not sponsored in any way. It's just the company I went with then. And it was great. Like, just experiencing another culture, actually without my family around, was one of the most interesting things I've ever done. I learned so much about both myself and like how to absorb knowledge, and yeah, just how it is to travel. I benefit from this trip to this day. Um, we were a group of maybe 20-ish teenagers from Sweden, and then when we got to England, there were more from other countries around Europe, and this was really amazing. So my parents dropped me off at the big central station in Malmö, and I don't know, I've never really been a sentimental person, so of course I'm all excited. I'm all excited to go on this new journey, and my parents, well, they're probably a little bit, oh, shall we really let our little girl go to this? And they did, and I'm so grateful for that. So this it's just an hour and a half, 2 hours to fly to England from Sweden, so it's not a long flight by any means. And we get there, and we get to the host family when we've landed, and everything is so new because obviously there are adults there, like the leaders of the language trip, the leaders and teachers of the courses. But still, it's so new because I have to keep track of things by myself for basically the first time. Keep track of your passport, keep track of just about everything. And then the host family, their house was so quaint. Like, it was in a pretty modern part of Eastbourne. Oh yeah, I didn't tell you, Eastbourne was the city we went to. And obviously while we were there, we traveled out to different cities such as Canterbury, and saw the cathedral. We went to London and looked at Madame Tussauds and a bunch of different things. Obviously shopping, because it's hard to go anywhere else and not shop at all. I honestly still own a pair of pants that I bought when I was 15, and I can still wear them. That's pretty awesome. There were a few years in my mid-20s when I couldn't wear them, but no, yeah. We went on like outings every day. There was always something to do, even on the weekends. Like, obviously, during the day and during the week, we always had classes. So we had this school where we went to, and got basically language classes and practice speaking and grammar and all of those really important things to learn a language. And then when we got in the afternoons, there was always something else to do. So we got to try windsurfing, and that was not fun. Or it was fun, it was an experience, but it was kind of crazy how they set it up, because uh, maybe it's not a great idea, obviously, for teenagers who it's their first time to windsurf, so you put them out in the ocean. They didn't do that. Instead, we were in this kind of pool, sort of pond-like. Yeah, it was a pool or a pond, I'm not sure, but it was full of swans, and the swan excrement. It was not very nice. And TMI, I was on my period at that point, and it was just not a good day. Also, the wetsuits had really big problems fitting my legs. I don't know. It was just. I remember it to this day, so clearly it was an experience. But I'd love to go windsurfing at some other point and try it again in a better setting. And basically, I'm all out of order with this, but we got to Eastbourne and got to know everybody. The host family that hosted me also hosted two other girls, one from Sweden and one from Spain. Um, we became quite good friends, and we just had an awesome time. And people tend to say that English food is really gross and it's all disgusting, but I think it's kind of mindset. Like, obviously, when you go somewhere, you have to try the things and try not to be prejudiced. Just because a culture has food that's mainly brown or yellow, it doesn't mean it's not tasty. And just because there's like steak and kidney pie and stuff like that, I found that delicious. I love pastry. I like meat, and like gravy is good too. So you just have to sort of accept that, okay, this is what they eat here, and just try it. And try not to be have your mindset that I'm not gonna like this. It's actually quite good, and especially if you eat it like at home in someone's like a home cooked meal is most often better than going to a restaurant and buying the classic thing. Like, it's not the same. And also, obviously, the setting of a family, like, it's different. You feel invited, you feel welcomed. So when in these classes, when we the first day we got there, we did a language test, and well, I was pretty good. Like, I had about 90% correct on all the questions. And then when we were leaving again, like the I think 2 days before we left or something, we did a new test, and I actually scored less on that test than the first one, uh, probably because my English skills were good enough when I got there, so I didn't really. I obviously I learned to use the language in another way and such, but this skill of the test was probably just around like the same, or like it depends on the questions. Obviously, if you know the things that are on the test, you'll answer better. Yeah, you'll get a better score. Mm, what's more? Oh yeah, I mentioned Madame Tussauds before, and when we were there, it was like way back, early 2000s. The Hulk movie starring Edward Norton had just come out, and Madame Tussauds had the Hulk in a wax figure. I will never forget that. It was huge, and the queue outside was really long. It was super hot. Like, this was during summer in England. It can get really hot because, well, obviously they have a lot of humidity, and also in basically the middle of the Atlantic, it gets hot and rather humid. So waiting in line out there, it was not quite as rainy and gloomy as I expected, because that's basically what you hear about England, right? That it always rains and it's humid and terrible. But yeah, it was a really great summer actually. And another thing I noticed is, since we were out and about doing things every day, uh, like, we always had activities and we always were somewhat active in the afternoons, and got home and slept really well because of that. I noticed that the shadows underneath my eyes that I had basically all my throughout my life since I was in middle school, they faded away. And obviously, I know that like being active and having lots of things to do, it's good for you, and you can see that. But I reflected on it when I got home, but did I change anything? No. I went back to being a computer nerd, just sitting in front of my computer doing time wasting things like so many people do. and I still do to this day. So I haven't really changed a lot. And then we flew home, and after 3 weeks, I believe. Yeah, it was 3 weeks, that whole trip. And it was amazing. I will remember it forever. And I hope this gives an illustration. I'm I'm sorry I don't have the digital photos from back there. They are unfortunately in my room in Sweden, so I can't really get to them by now. I can't really get to them at this point. When we landed and then took the train back, because I think we flew from Copenhagen. That's usually how it's dealt with when you're in southern Sweden. You fly from Copenhagen rather than Sturup. Um, Two different airports. Sturup is very small. Copenhagen, obviously, since it's the Danish capital, is huge. And anyway, when we got to the central station in Malmö and we were back, I'm greeted by, imagine, like Hagrid, like my dad. He'd grown out a beard the whole time I was gone. It was so sweet. Like, I hadn't realized that before, but he had started graying a little bit, so that the beard was sort of speckled, and he was so happy to see me. And me, the little shit that I was like, oh, I could have been away for one more week. Bitch, just don't. Just be happy to see your parents. Yeah. So anyway, that was my trip to Eastbourne when I was 15. And it was my first solo trip, and I absolutely loved it. If you're thinking about doing any type of language course online, I can't recommend it highly enough because it is the best way to start utilizing a language, and it definitely laid a great foundation for my English in the future, like now. Um, I hope you're having a great day. I would love if you'd subscribe. There's a lot more interesting content to come while I try out different things for this channel. This is the first video, by the way, so don't hate on me for trashy editing and stuff. I'll learn in time. Have a great day. See you next time. Bye.